Aw, you two are gonna make me tear up, I heard uttered from nearby as I looked over to see Danny standing on the other side of me, a few feet away with a big grin on his face. Isn't this just a lovely father-daughter moment? Ugh, really? Come on, man, I replied. Can anyone have a serious conversation without you interjecting with some smart-ass comment? And what's with the daughter stuff? Hey, don't look at me, buddy, Danny replied. After all, remember, that future version of you had a titan of his own, and she referred to you as her father, if I'm correct. Or don't you remember it? Well, yeah, I remember it. Remember, you're not the one who watched yourself die. Still dealing with that one. What a fucking head trip. Well, I don't know. I sort of like it, and it's not like it's not true. What? I said, turning around to face Titan. I mean, think about it. I am made from a combination of your genetic material and Emily's. So technically, I'm your daughter. Well, I mean, yeah, but, you know, normally it happens a different sort of way. So you don't want me to call myself your daughter? Would it bother you? Titan said, beginning to look at me a bit upset, as if the idea that she couldn't call herself my daughter made her sad. No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying that the situation isn't exactly normal. But if it means that much to you, I suppose there's no trouble with it. But do me a favor. Don't say you're Emily's daughter, especially when she's around. She can be kind of, well, sensitive when it comes to anything referring to her in any way that might make her feel unattractive. I'm worried that being called Mom might kickstart a feeling of being old, which is definitely not a bag of snakes I want to deal with. Trust me, kid, getting old is, well, just a state of things. It's gonna happen, Al said as he approached, carrying a freshly cleaned mechanical part in his grasp, most likely pulled from one of the combat vehicles that we had pulled into the factory, and begun to retrofit, just in case we needed them. Well, old man, I'm sorry to say, but if Victoria is any standard to go by, I don't think I'm going to be getting old. In fact, I'm a little concerned that I might be immortal now. Hey kid, getting old's got nothing to do with your body, he said, pointing a finger at his head, getting a few grease stains on his hat. Getting old is all up here. It's the accumulation of experience. They can be good experiences or bad experiences, but they stack up all the same. The older that you get, the more shit you got on your mind. Sifting through all that shit can be a pain in the ass, which is why old folks never seem too happy. Add that on top of all the physical crap, and the fact that I don't always have a smile on my face should be fairly easy to understand. But in regards to you having a kid, I don't see a problem with it. Honestly, you're not a bad guy. I personally think you'd make a great dad. You can be a little bit of a jackass every now and again, but most of the time you're pretty solid. Well, thanks for the compliment, I guess, I replied, putting out my cigarette, when from nowhere, a massive shake uttered through the factory. Alarms began to blare. The color of the light in the room changed as the emergency lights flashed on. We're under attack, Titan said, looking towards the front entrance. There appear to be two vehicles, both airborne, Titan exclaimed. At this point, she was probably using her wireless connection, accessing the security systems for the factory. She could probably see through the scanners, cameras, and equipment, so I had no doubt that she was right. They just took out our reserve generators. Backup power isn't coming on. We're on emergency system reserves now, but that won't last forever. The 2 air carriers are dropping ground units. By the looks of it, men in those armored suits that Alexander's company produces. There are nearly a dozen of them. Maybe more. They're still unloading, and they're starting to move in, both front and back. But something's not right. They're not police units, and both the air carriers and the armor suits are all blanked out. Solid black, with no representation of any military or private corporation. Ugh, it's a black op. They're not marked with anything because they don't want to be connected back to anyone. They're not going to be taking prisoners. This is a kill job, I said, gritting my teeth. Titan, can you coordinate the efforts for the XPCs that we have on guard? Move them into position. It's already been done, Titan replied without hesitation. All XPCs have been mobilized. Primary defenses are on. It's slowing them down, but there's still lots of them, she said, as I began to hear gunfire from both the cannons loaded outside, as well as whatever weaponry that these individuals were carrying with them. Okay, Titan, can you handle piloting the motorcycle while you're doing all this? I said, looking over to her, a bit concerned that I might be overtaxing her by trying to ask her to handle all of it. She smiled and looked over to me. You've got to be kidding. This is a cakewalk. I could control way more systems than this if I wanted. Handling the motorcycle will be no problem, and I'll still be able to stay in communication with you, remember? Okay, good, I replied. Titan, Al, Danny, you guys stay here and watch the fort. Titan will be controlling the troops. She'll try to make sure that they don't get in, but you're going to need to arm up just in case. I'm going to go confront the troops at the front gate. Oh dear, whatever am I to do with myself? The doctor said as I saw him approaching with a smile on his face, waltzing up with that cane in hand, spinning it on the edge of his finger. Well, if you're going to the front, I might as well occupy myself in the back. No need to have lax defenses after all. Are you sure you can handle it? I said, looking over to him. Don't insult me. I can handle some buffoons in armor plating any day of the week. Good to know, I said as I started moving towards my motorcycle. Okay, Jax. I'm going to send my 2 specialized XPCs with you. They'll be great backup. No, I replied, looking back towards her. With everyone on an offense, that leaves this place with a weaker level of guard. I don't want you guys left defenseless in here. You might have weaponry, but against those armored suits, if any of them manage to get past me, it's still a fairly one-sided fight. I want you guys to have protection. Leave this to me in the dock, and the XPC's on guard patrol, I said as I hopped on, throttling the engine. Tighten a door if you would. No problem, it'll open, just head for it, Titan replied. Oh, and Doc, try not to get yourself killed back there, and make sure none of them make it in here to Titan, Al, and Danny. If they do, I'm kicking your ass, I said as I throttled the engine, pulling forward rapidly, beginning to head for the entry doors to the factory, which opened automatically thanks to Titan's uplink, just enough to let me through before beginning to close as I rushed out into the front section of the factory. Outside of the doors, it was a complete war zone. Scattered XPCs in armored suits, firing back and forth at each other. Explosions going off right, left, and center. I rushed into the first group that seemed to be nearing the factory. They were in conflict with a few XPCs. There was a group of 4 of them, but there were only 2 XPCs to fight, so it looked like they were starting to get overwhelmed. So, all it took was a thought as I was blazing towards them, and my handheld blade extended itself out of the armor plating on this new bike. As I drove into the group, me and the motorcycle separated. I jumped off, the motorcycle swerving to the right, extending side-mounted blades as it tore into one of the enemy soldiers, sending him hurtling end over end. Meanwhile, I was flying at breakneck speed. I went into a whirl, spinning my handheld blade up to maximum speed. As it impacted, it tore straight through him. There was a slight amount of resistance, but the armor was more suited for deflecting bullets than blades, and the field of energy wasn't strong enough to repel my sword. His head flew off like a bottle top as my feet impacted the ground, sliding across it, hitting hard enough to dig their way into the concrete floor, about 1/4 of an inch as I slid across it. And just like that, the war was on. It appears Alexander was the first to make his move.